What's up, y'all? It's your girl Phoenix Novell, and thank you for tuning in to another Musicians on Gigs Artist Spotlight Series. It's your girl right here sitting with the one and only King James, and he is a producer who I had the privilege of meeting in my hometown, Philly, over a decade ago. I mean, he was an up-and-comer, he was one of the baddest on the streets, and I was very, very anxious to work with him. Cut 2 years later down the line, run into him in LA of all places, and now he is just owning it. He is a producer, he is a songwriter, he is a singer, he's also a fashion designer, and all around really focused on building his empire and honing his craft. So it is my pleasure to sit here with you guys today and introduce you, let you get to know him a little bit personally, and hopefully my fans and friends can become friends and followers of the one and only King James.
Sure.
So James.
Yo, what up?
What up? So I mentioned in the intro that you are from Philly, or I met you in Philly, but are you originally from Philly? Were you actually born in Philadelphia?
Yeah, I wasn't born in Philadelphia. I was born in the UK, so UK by way of Philadelphia, so England by way of Philly. Yep.
Okay, awesome.
Southwest Philly by exact. You know what I'm saying?
Southwest. Okay.
You know what I'm saying?
And what did you think about being in Philadelphia? What did you think about working in Philly as an artist and working with other artists from Philly?
It was a great stomping ground. Like it was, I take pride in it. Like I love Philly. I love the fact the music and the history there. Too many names to mention, but Gamble and Huff. Just like a lot of people was just like really started music. Michael Jackson. A lot of people recorded there. So it's really I took pride in that. I still do.
Awesome. Okay. Was there any downside to being in Philly, or breaking into the music industry in Philly? Would you say?
I think so. I think Philly is like a place where it's kind of like it's rough. So I mean, if you can make any type of progress out there, just like as far as like your backbone, just your talents for just your criticism. Like I'm saying, like the fans are like from the sports down to the music, everything. Most Philly fans to do with anything, they're really strict. So if you can find your way through that, I feel like you're good.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, did you get a chance to work with any major artists? And if so, if you don't mind sharing, who?
There's a couple. I worked with Music Soul Child, which he's is a pretty large actor out of Philadelphia, like
yes.
the soul. I worked with not on record, but I worked with Jill.
Jill Scott.
Yeah, Jill Scott. I did work with Jill. I worked with Reed Dollars, which is he's a rapper. I'm saying he's really heavy on the underground market, battle rappers. So that was heavy. Did some work with Freeway. There's a couple people.
Awesome.
Yeah, I'm thinking about it. Yeah.
Okay.
Almost forgot.
Yeah. Well, let me just cut to the part where I met James. I mean, he doesn't recall, but I do. He was very as soon as I heard his tracks, I was very impressed. He was also working with a guy named David, another producer. Was just very impressed with their music. I think I was about maybe 20, 21, 22 maybe, and he was one of the first producers that wasn't afraid to tell me that I needed to step up my game. And I remember it very well because it's what I needed. Some people, they don't always know how to say it to you. They don't always know how to try to inspire you to be better. But he was really good, and being as though he was working in home cooking and with a production company that was kind of like the production company in Philly, with a lot of big artists, a lot of big writers, a lot of things going on, and some affiliation to some major labels, you know, he was around people who probably was like trying to pull the very best out of him as well. So when it came to writers and people who were trying to write these tracks, I found myself, you know, not as impressive as I thought I was. And no shade, you know, I'm not at all. When I linked up with him here, I wasn't like, oh my God. But I did remember it because it stuck out of my head that sometimes in order to be your best self, you have to be confronted with opposition so that you can really see yourself for what it is and not be so impressed by your talent that you don't get better when you can. So thank you. If I never thanked you for that.
Yeah, you know, you're welcome. You're welcome.
Seriously.
Yeah, no, you know, it's true. Like I'm saying, it's love. Like I'm saying, it's important to do that. So.
Absolutely. He inspired me to just be better and to like think outside of the box. I think I was kind of in my own comfort zone with melodies and ideas, and he kind of wasn't afraid to push the envelope. And I remember a lot of that. So back to him. What brought you out here to LA of all places? Why LA?
Like I feel like just to push myself, that same thing that I was, you know, advising to you or to, you know, other people who I work with, and they you know, pushed me too. I just wanted to pursue better. Not saying that there's anything wrong with like Philadelphia. I just felt like there was a lot of, and still is a lot of creative people out here. And I just was not so much for like the Hollywood glitz and glamour, but you know, with the people that you work with in the entertainment business, those people are here, and access to them is readily available. If you know, if that's what you're pursuing, there's a couple of labels and stuff out here. I have started my own thing, so it just eliminates the I don't know what you want to call it, whatever tag that you go and build yourself when you gotta like fly from Philadelphia to Los Angeles anyway, or any other city. So I decided to make this like the home base. And to be honest, like I spent some time in Florida, so I just wanted it. I like the weather. Just keep it real. I do. I like the weather.
I
nice.
like the weather better than Philly, but for all of you who have never been to LA, it's not all year round summertime.
No,
That's
it
not
gets
real.
chilly.
That's not real. And I used to live in Thailand, so I know it's not all around summertime. Like I'm literally in like 2 coats outside in November.
Straight up.
Real talk. So no, it doesn't snow out here in, you know, where are we at?
We're in North Hollywood.
North Hollywood. It doesn't snow technically, but yo, once that sun disappears, bundle up, basically. Okay. So what has been your biggest success out here, you would say? Like, have you had a moment of a breakthrough out here? Have you linked up with some major artists, or what have you found to be great? Like yes, I made the right move. Have you had that moment yet?
Yeah, I feel like I've had the moment. Really from the time I came out here originally. I came out here and then I left for a small period of time, probably like 3 or 4 years in between the time that I originally came here, which was like about a decade ago. But one of the biggest things I feel like for me is just like the relationships, which is huge. Relationships are really big. That's how I met you. So it's kind of like the same things that I was doing in Philadelphia. I just feel like I wanted to kind of like do that for myself out here. I just feel like the more people you know, so I still have plenty of connections in Philly. Just more so like, you know, kind of like on some bi-coastal, not even kind of, on some bi-coastal, you know, work type thing. So relationships I feel like is one of the biggest things because those things bring about, you know, breakthroughs in other areas like, you know, song placements, money, opportunities, just like leveling up in general. And everybody trying to level up, so
Absolutely.
that's where it's at.
Okay.
For me anyway.
Yeah, for me too.
Yeah, you say so.
So this is actually my first interview with a producer, you know, who's actually plays songs and who's actually, you know, who's worked with other artists and isn't necessarily just about their own material. So I can ask you questions that I've never asked before from the perspective of creating for artists. What do you find to be the most common thing between artists when it comes to being in the studio? What do artists want? You know, what do you find that you've learned as kind of like a general thumb about artists?
I feel like artists generally want to make some type of connection with the creative people that they're working with. So like an artist that from the bottom to the top, or whichever direction, from the engineer to creative director for a project. In any type of situation, I feel like in a scenario with an artist, they want to feel like some type of relationship between the person who's helping them with their creative process. So I feel as if, like, in my experiences, when you can form a bond, it could be just grabbing a coffee before you actually get a session, just like actually chilling and talking. Those type of things, it brings you closer to the artist, and y'all can be like, so when she like, yo, like this, or he's like, this relationship was a fucking headache, they can actually just like say those type of things, like, and find a way to kind of like word it to where it translates in the artistic form, whether it be visually, whether it be on a record, like. So those things, I feel like the small bonds that happen outside of the recording process, where I feel like those small intricate details, like the foreplay, if you will, of the creative process, makes a big difference in the relationship with the artist. I feel like most artists want those type of things because it translates to the music.
Well said, because I do feel a difference when I feel a connection with somebody. I feel like they actually, I would say yes, as an artist that has written to a lot of producers' tracks, I want to feel like, yes, I like your music, I like what you did, but that moment where it makes me feel like this is for me, like you know my style.
Cater to you,
yeah. It makes me feel all the more connected to that track and wanting it, and especially if you kind of like, you pretty much did the bulk of it, then like if I say, can you tweak this or tweak that, and just knowing that you're comfortable to do that, not saying, well, this is how the track is. You don't want to do it.
Right.
I've had those kind of producers before who don't really want to change anything because it's like, it's perfect the way it is, so you can adapt or I can find the next person. So I think you're right on getting to know them and allowing them to feel you and sense your energy, because with that they'll know the right tracks to play for you. Right? If you just come in there and just randomly play me everything you've randomly played all the other artists, and it's like, you never really give me a sense of, this is for me,
it's
right?
For me, it just feels like it's just like, all right, like it's not really for them.
Right, it's like a machine, like, hey, pick one, right?
Right. Yeah, you want to feel like it's catered to you.
Exactly.
Especially if you're paying for it.
Especially if you're paying for it. Right. But you mentioned that, well, I know you are, but I knew you predominantly as a producer, right? We were young, and I was introduced to home cooking through a couple friends of mine, Zukan, who's also a producer, and Latif, who's a singer-songwriter himself, and just amazing artists. And so I just would hear James's tracks. I would hear what he was doing in production, but I had no idea that he was also a singer. I had no idea that he was a songwriter, And so let me ask you now, in what order do you say that you're a producer, singer, songwriter, and fashion designer? Do you have like, okay, artists, do you have any like, okay, order? This is number one. How would you define yourself in that order with all the things that you do?
I feel like I'll probably put like the artist thing first, because I think that covers like everything.
Okay.
Yeah, that covers all of it.
And then creatively.
Yeah.
Now, I think the sad part about 2020 is that unfortunately none of us saw it coming. The pandemic that pretty much collapsed the whole entertainment industry, and it sent everybody, into panic, because they had to make sure that they were taking care of their essentials first, their family, and that they had money saved. And the first thing that seemed redundant or not essential was the entertainment industry, and so many of us artists who make a living, as musicians, as painters, as DJs, as singers, dancers, etc., we found ourselves for one of the first times ever completely useless, and a lot of us were still being creative, but we had to go and get 9-to-5s, and if we didn't exactly save, in our profession, we were basically back to the grind. And it was a harsh reminder and a harsh reality. Me, myself, I was in Thailand at the time and just couldn't find any work, and I had to come back. Luckily, an artist who I was working with, Summer, she had basically made LA her home years ago, and she invited me out here because I really was not trying to spend any time in Philly grinding, and especially being there during the wintertime. So that's what brought me back out here. But again, I ran into James out here, and I just wanted to kind of ask you, James, how has the pandemic affected you and your music prospects and working with artists out here, or has it at all?
It has, like, it's definitely affected me and like a lot of people all over the country, but it's affected me personally. Just like, clients, live shows. Like, even me myself, I'm still working on an album, just to drop music myself. But then, there's a lot of live shows and stuff like in the city, ways to kind of like get yourself going. Or even as a musician, I'm a musician first before a producer. I learned how to play keys, so it's like when they shut down the clubs and everything, it's kind of like there's no more open mics, there's no more little, you know what I'm saying? Even down to the churches, they shut that down too. So it's definitely like a learning period for everybody. But I think that even in crisis, you can kind of come out and like
Yeah.
rearrange things and make it work for you. So I'm in the process of doing that right now. So everyone's trying to make it work basically.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I just completely had to go and get a 9 to 5. I mean, real talk.
Same.
Luckily, I was able to like still do some work online and like produce vocals online and send stuff through WeTransfer or Dropbox or something to producers who are interested. There's a few sites like Fiverr and what is it? Something Gigs. You know that site? Air Gigs, where basically you can just communicate with people all over the world, creative people all over the world, selling their skills for pretty cheaper prices than they probably would normally. And so you can still, people had to find alternative ways of bringing in income. And a lot of artists, they learned exactly how to be independent to make money off of their crafts, because being out there in the world was kind of limited, those opportunities. So it's definitely affected me, and like James said, I think you're grinding, you're just learning different ways to hustle. Just because this door closed doesn't mean that window can't be pushed open and opportunities made.
Bust that.
That's right. So can you tell me, James, what was your best and your worst studio experiences? As an artist yourself, or as a producer for an artist? Do you have any memories of the best and worst that really stick out that you would never forget?
One of the best experiences was like an A&R. I won't say his name, but an A&R from a label telling me like, "Yo, your life's gonna change after this." And at first I was kind of like, I wanted to be honest, I wanted to make more money from the record, but it still did change my life, because the satisfaction of just knowing like I landed a record on a major, on a major artist was like, it's like, yo, who did this? Like, it's like, yo, like, how did you, people start asking questions, like, they want to know more about you. So that feeling was irreplaceable, because, I coming from, where I'm coming from, it's just like, it was one of the best experiences, if not the best experience, just like real talk. Like, that was like the first time, like, knowing like something that I did, like this is how this person's feeling it, and just like from start to finish. So it's a really good feeling for like one of the best like experiences I've had in the studio for yeah. Awesome. For sure.
And the worst?
Conflict for I mean it wasn't necessarily with an artist, just like creative people, everyone who's involved in the creative part, just like disagreements, like sometimes we're dealing with like alpha males, like everybody like in there just gonna and be like, well, they ain't gonna work, and like how those moments happen. But what I'm saying, sometimes masterpieces are forged out of fire. So I ain't mad at it at all. But I guess for just like calling it the worst, I guess you can call it worst, but it's not. It's still positive to come out of it though.
Okay.
Yeah.
So let me ask a little bit more about your the genesis of your producing career in Philly. What was the team that you worked with, and who gave you your start? Who opened the door for you? Would you say? How did you get discovered?
That was Ivan and Carvin. They're like a production duo, and it was like they had a team. It was like Ivan, Barrios, Carvin, Higgins, Mike and Jay. So like they were like the management side. So yeah, Mike McCarthy and Jay Hips, which they're pretty much that was like their team. So they brought me in originally to meet with them. Well, it was a guy. It was like a guy who was management at the time, Troy, and shout out to Troy, that's my brother. And he basically brought me over to deal with them, and they were the ones who like basically just like was like, yo man, you're talented. Like I feel like if you're serious about this, like come through and we'll just go from there. So I started going there regularly, and Ivan hit me one day because I would call and check in, be like, yo, it's cool I come through today. Say I can come like work on some stuff, whatever. One day I hit him, he just was like, stop asking, bro, just come through. Like saying like good. So I was like, all right, cool. So I always had like that drive to just keep working. So I was trying to get better. So shout out to them for real, because they the ones who kind of they not even kind of, they did discover me because they was on some.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That's what's up. I met them. Shout out. Really, really cool guys. So I want to ask, where do you see yourself around this time next year? Physically, musically, where do you visualize being happiest?
I think right now, I think I'm happiest here, but at the same time, I don't want to put a cap on anything as far as like mobility. I feel like is important. And I've always been a person that I aspire to just like, not even just, this, if there's one thing that this pandemic has shown me is like being able to just, yes, generate money, but being able to be like mobile. So saving money is definitely a tactic, and like ways of saving money is not always just actually just I got a stash like in the bank or in a safe or however you decide on doing it. It could be having equity in property to where you can actually move to where I can come rock with you if you like somewhere else, be outside the country, or like I might be somewhere else as well, to where you have some type of like relationship or ownership in other places. Could be states, it could be other countries, but. For the most part, I'm definitely happy here. I'm forging, like making my
Empire.
my empire, and like starting it here. But at the same time, it's like with the internet, a lot you can do a lot with a phone. So
Very true. Very true. Okay, that's what's up. LA for me, I'm not ready for it. I wasn't ready for it. I don't know if I will ever be ready for it, but I'm here. And what I respect and I appreciate about you is that you always encourage me to like, okay, if this is the level and this is what you want, then make sure that you match it and you get this kind of job that can sustain it. Just, increase with your demand and what you desire. Don't just stay here and only look through it through this lens of what's comfortable. And it's inspiring because some people could say, you know what, it's hot over here. Come back over here to where it's warm, or to where it's, cooler. And you have to know yourself. Everything isn't for everybody. And right now, I'm glad that I can see that I am able to survive in a place that I never even saw myself being, And it's cool to meet somebody who I know from back home who actually is living their dream amidst the disaster of 2020, if you will. So I have one last question for you. And this question is specifically geared to those viewers of mine who actually are artists and want to know how to make it out there, and want to know if there's any advice and tools and tips that they can use to help themselves up the ladder, to become a producer or an artist. What would be your advice to up and coming producers and artists who are actually trying to do what we're doing today? How could you help them, and what would you have liked somebody to tell you or show you when you were younger?
It's a good question. I think it's important. I think investing into yourself is really important. So the things that it's money for sure, and also the things that's actually not only tangible things, but whatever you have readily available. Like for certain people, they have a lot of time. So like I feel like right now in the corona, it's like people have more time because some places you can't be out, like you can't really be like, what I'm saying. So it's like if you have time readily available, invest your time. So think about what it is that you want to do. It seems very simple, but the more time I spend doing that, is like I realized certain direction that I want to go in is like the ideas were more solid in my head. So it's kind of like sometimes things is moving so quickly. If we're talking about the time period when I first started, if we're talking about time periods before the coronavirus, it's like you're not really thinking too much. It's kind of like, it's all working out, whatever. And there's like an abrupt stop, you know what I'm saying? So I feel like for up and coming people, even if everything just goes back completely to normal, investing into yourself is number one. Number one, invest in yourself.
I agree.
So you basically like, I only got 2 nickels. Well, invest them, invest one of them nickels into yourself. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, you know, start somewhere. Like, you know, it may seem like kind of difficult at first, but the gratification, if you're passionate about what you're doing, irreplaceable. You can't put a money value on that. And when you do have put a money value, you can be like, hey, this is how much my time cost. Either you can pay that, or you know, you can go somewhere else and try and get better. Like, you know what I'm saying? But starting there is a confidence builder, and it makes other people who are doing what you're doing feel like, hey, like, you know, I want to deal with Phoenix. I want to deal with, you know, whoever it is what you're doing. So, for sure.
That's what's up. I want to say I second that. And James, thank you so much for joining me on this episode of Musicians on Gigs. I am honored to have you on my show. And ladies and gentlemen, I hope that you enjoyed this as well. I have included all of James' social media tags and stuff so you can actually check him out, follow him, listen to his original music, and get to know him as well. And I hope that you tune in for our next episode of Musicians on Gigs. In the meantime, in between time, peace.